In 1955, a housewife could cleanse, soften, and protect her whole face with a tin of cold cream, a single egg, and a bottle of witch hazel for a few pennies. Today, the shelf that promises the same work holds a dozen bottles and can run $300. Your grandmother knew things about her own skin that the modern beauty aisle would prefer you forget. There is one idea underneath most of what you are about to hear. It is called the acid mantle, the thin, slightly acidic film that sits on healthy skin and guards it. You are going to hear that phrase more than once before the countdown is over. So, hold on to it. Hit that subscribe button, because what follows is about to change how you think about everything on your bathroom shelf. The villain is not one company. It is an industry that spent decades convincing your grandmother that a cupboard of simple things could not work as well as a shelf of expensive ones. Let us count down the 20 habits that industry hopes you never rediscover. Number 20, the cold cream tissue off. Before foaming cleansers ruled the sink, a woman removed the day with cold cream. She smoothed a thick layer over her face, up to the hairline and under the jaw, then wiped it away with a tissue or a warm cloth. Pond's built an empire on this single act, and by the 1950s, a jar sat in nearly every American bathroom. It worked because makeup, grime, and the day's oil are themselves oily, and oil dissolves oil far more gently than soap and scrubbing ever could. The cream floated the dirt up off the skin so it could be lifted away without the harsh foaming agents that leave skin feeling tight. That tight, squeaky feeling we were all taught to chase is the sound of skin that has just been stripped. A woman would smooth a fingertip of cream over a dry face, massage for a slow count, then wipe it away with a tissue and a warm cloth. Today, luxury cleansing balms sell you that exact idea for $40 a jar. If the cold cream removed the day, the next habit decided how skin was left behind. Number 19, the cool water final rinse. Every cleansing ritual ended the same way. Warm water and a cloth did the work, and a final splash of cool, even cold water finished it. The old claim that cold water closes the pores is not quite right, because the comment section will be honest with us about it. Pores have no muscles, but the cool rinse did do something real. It calmed redness, firmed the look of the skin, and rinsed away the last film of cleanser, so nothing harsh sat on the face. After washing, you cupped cold water in both hands and pressed it to the face several times, then patted dry. Every pore refining toner and icing gadget sold today is chasing the feeling your grandmother got from the cold tap. That was how skin was cleaned. The next habit was about how it was fed. Number 18, the EGG white firming mask. This one goes back centuries, but it was alive and well in the mid-century bathroom. A woman separated an egg, beat the white until foamy, and painted it over her face before a big evening. As it dried, it tightened into a glazed film, and for a few hours, the skin looked taut and polished. The proteins in egg white dry into a thin contracting layer that physically pulls the surface tight and smooths the look of fine lines and large pores. It is temporary and mechanical, and it is the same trick the expensive instant lift serums use today, only the serum cost $60 and the egg came with breakfast. A woman would beat one egg white to a froth, brush it on, leave it until it felt tight, then rinse with cool water. Today, the words tightening and firming are stamped across whole product lines. Number 17, the oatmeal and honey mask. For oily or troubled skin, the answer came out of the Pantry. Ground oats mixed with honey into a thick paste, smoothed on, left to sit, then rinsed away. Oats contain compounds that calm inflammation and gently absorb excess oil, while honey is naturally drawing and mildly antibacterial, pulling a little moisture into the skin while discouraging the bacteria that feed breakouts. It does not strip, and it works with the skin rather than against it. Dermatologists still put oat extract into products for irritated skin for the very same reason. The recipe was a spoonful of finely ground oats and a spoonful of honey, warmed slightly to spread, left on 15 minutes, then rinsed with a warm cloth. A modern oat soothing mask will charge $30 for what cost your grandmother almost nothing. If oats and honey calmed the skin, the next habit tried to brighten it, and it came with a warning. Number 16. The lemon juice brightener. A cut lemon was a fixture of the old beauty cupboard. Women dabbed diluted lemon juice onto dark spots, freckles, and dull patches, hoping to even out the skin and lend it a glow. Lemon carries a mild fruit acid that loosens dead surface cells, the same family of acids that chemical exfoliants are built on now. And here is where the acid mantle quietly enters the story, because that gentle acidity sat closer to the skin's own slightly acidic nature than a harsh scrub ever did. But there is a catch your grandmother sometimes learned the hard way. Lemon makes skin far more sensitive to sunlight, and used before a day outdoors, it could burn and cause worse spots than it cured. The safe method was a little lemon juice, well diluted in water, dabbed only on a spot, only at night, never before the sun. Today, brightening serums sell that same fruit acid in a bottle, with the sun warning printed on the label your grandmother learned from her own mother. Number 15. The rosewater splash. Rosewater was the gentle refresher of the era, and of many before it. A splash on a cotton pad or patted straight onto the face to soften, to scent, and to revive tired skin in the afternoon. It is soothing and mildly anti-inflammatory. It calms redness, and it leaves a soft trace of moisture and scent without stripping anything away, which is precisely why it never truly died, only got rebranded. A woman would dampen a cotton pad and sweep it over a clean face or splash it on and let it dry. Today, rosewater essence sells in a beautiful bottle for $40, doing what it did for a few cents in 1955. Number 14. The Witch Hazel Astringent. For oily and blemish-prone skin, witch hazel was the everyday toner. Distilled from the bark and leaves of a shrub, and sold in plain bottles by makers like Dickinson's since the 1800s, it sat in the medicine cabinet for cuts, bruises, and the morning face alike. It earned its place because witch hazel is a natural astringent, rich in compounds called tannins that tighten the surface and cut through excess oil. It refreshed without the stinging alcohol that later toners leaned on. Joan Crawford, the era's great icon of discipline, was famous for her stringent splashing routine. The method was a little witch hazel on a cotton pad, swept over the oily zones after cleansing. Witch hazel is, in fact, still one of the best-selling toners in America, which tells you everything. Your grandmother just bought it in a plain bottle. Here is something the industry would rather keep quiet. Pause for a moment, because this is the idea that ties half of the countdown together. Your skin is not a blank surface waiting to be cleaned. It comes with its own defense, a thin film scientists call the acid mantle, described in the medical literature for more than 90 years. It is slightly acidic, sitting at about 5.5 on a scale where 7 is neutral and the higher numbers are alkaline. That gentle acidity keeps harmful bacteria from taking hold, holds moisture in, and keeps the skin's barrier working. Now here is the part that matters. A traditional bar of soap is strongly alkaline, often reading 9 or 10 on that same scale, and every wash with it knocks the skin's acid film out of balance for hours. Your grandmother did not know the chemistry by name, but her habits respected it almost perfectly. The cold cream that cleaned without stripping, the cool rinse that left nothing harsh behind, the faintly acidic splashes of lemon, witch hazel and rosewater all sat closer to the skin's own nature than the foaming routines that came later. She worked with the mantle. We were sold a shelf of products that fight it. Keep that in mind because it explains more than you would think. Number 13. The petroleum jelly eye trick. A small jar of petroleum jelly lived in every household, and one quiet use was around the eyes. A tiny dab patted under the eye at night to soften fine lines and ease morning puffiness. Women also slicked it onto lashes and brows. The mechanism is pure barrier science. Petroleum jelly is what dermatologists call an occlusive. It does not feed the skin, it seals it, locking in the moisture already there so the delicate skin under the eye stays plump and smooth overnight. It is one of the most effective and least expensive moisture sealers ever found, never improved upon, only repackaged. A woman used a fingertip's worth, patted gently under each eye before bed, never rubbed in. Today, overnight, eye recovery creams sell that same sealing trick in a tiny pot for $80 an ounce. If the cheap jar sealed moisture in, the next habit poured richness back. Number 12. The egg yolk and olive oil treatment. Where the egg white tightened, the yolk nourished. For dry, tired winter skin, a woman mixed an egg yolk with a little olive oil and smoothed it on as a rich feeding mask. The yolk is full of fats and a natural softener called lecithin, the protein that helps oil and water bind, while olive oil is heavy with the same skin-friendly fatty acids your own skin makes. Together, they coated dry skin in a film of true nourishment and slowed the moisture escaping from it. The recipe was 1 yolk and a teaspoon of olive oil, mixed smooth, left on 15 minutes, then rinsed warm. Every nourishing oil treatment and barrier repair mask on the market today reaches for what your grandmother whisked in a teacup. Number 11. The 100 brush strokes and the scalp it served. The nightly ritual of 100 brush strokes is remembered as a hair habit, but it was a skin habit too, because the scalp is skin. A woman sat at her vanity and drew a bristle brush slowly through her hair from root to tip, again and again as the last act of the day. The brushing pulled the scalp's natural oil, its sebum, down the length of the hair, conditioning it the whole way. It also stimulated the scalp and kept that skin's own oil moving rather than building up. In an age before daily shampooing stripped everything away each morning, working the natural oils through was how a woman kept scalp and hair healthy at once. The method was a natural bristle brush, drawn in slow strokes from scalp to ends, 100 of them every night. Today we strip the scalp bare with daily washing, then buy bottled oils to put back what the brush used to carry. Your grandmother moved it for free. That was the small nightly discipline. The next habit asked for heat. Number 10. The warm cloth steam. Before she touched cream or mask, a careful woman softened her skin with heat. A washcloth wrung out in hot water was pressed over the face for a minute, sometimes while she leaned over a bowl of steaming water with a towel over her head. The warmth and moisture softened the surface, loosened the day's grime and the plugs of oil in the pores, and made everything that followed work better. It opened the skin to be cleaned properly, instead of scrubbed at. The method was a clean cloth soaked in hot, not scalding water, wrung out and held to the face until it cooled, then repeated once or twice. Today, heated facial steamers sell for over $100 to do what a hot washcloth did in your grandmother's hands. Number 9. The soap facial and the quiet war over it. Not everyone agreed on soap. Palmolive ran enormous campaigns promising that simple soap facials would bring new complexion beauty to most women who tried them, and millions scrubbed their faces morning and night with a bar and a cloth, believing clean meant healthy. The cold cream camp resisted, and they were closer to right than they knew. Daily alkaline soap strips the skin's protective acid mantle, the mantle we just talked about, leaving skin dry, tight, and more prone to irritation and breakouts, the opposite of what the advertisements promised. The whole modern shift toward gentle, soap-free cleansers is the beauty world finally admitting the cream camp had a point. The lesson, more than a recipe, was restraint. Clean the skin, but do not punish it. Today, dermatologists warn against the very harsh foaming bars the industry once sold as the height of cleanliness. Number 8. The vanishing cream base. There were 2 creams in the old routine, and people forget the lighter one. Cold cream removed and nourished, but vanishing cream was the daytime workhorse. A light cream that sank in fast and left a smooth matte surface. Women wore it as a moisturizer and as the base their face powder sat on. It worked by giving the skin a thin layer of moisture and a smooth canvas without the greasy shine of the heavier cream, so powder went on evenly and stayed put. It was the original primer and day moisturizer folded into one humble jar. She smoothed a thin layer over a clean face in the morning and let it sink in before powder. It disappeared into the skin, which is how it earned its name. Today, the makeup counter sells you a separate moisturizer and a separate primer, 2 steps and 2 prices, for the single job your grandmother's vanishing cream handled. Number 7. The night cream ritual. The day was for the light cream. The night belonged to the rich one. A heavier, deeply moisturizing cream smoothed on before being and left to work through the night. The whole idea of repairing skin while you sleep was built into the daily rhythm. Skin loses moisture faster overnight and does much of its natural repair while you rest, so a rich cream left on for 8 hours sealed that moisture in and supported the skin when it worked hardest. There was no rushing it, no rinsing it off after a polite few minutes. The night did the work. A woman patted a generous layer over the face and throat at bedtime, with a little extra where the skin was driest. Today, overnight repair and sleeping mask creams are a billion-dollar idea, and the idea itself sat in your grandmother's bedside drawer. Pause for a moment, because we should be honest about what really happened to all of this. These habits did not vanish because they were banned or proven false. They vanished because they were out-marketed. A free cupboard of eggs, oats, lemon, and witch hazel makes no company any money. A shelf of 12 branded bottles, each promising to solve one tiny problem, makes a fortune. So the industry did something quietly brilliant. It took the single thing your grandmother did, cleanse and moisturize, and split it into a dozen named steps, each in its own jar, each requiring the next. And in at least one case it went further. A foaming cleanser harsh enough to leave your skin feeling stripped and tight was not a failure of design. It was a success, because skin stripped of its own oil overproduces oil within a day, which sends you back for the next product to fix the dryness the first one caused. That is not a conspiracy whispered in a boardroom. It is just what happens when you sell complexity to people who used to get by on simplicity. Your grandmother was not behind the times. She was free of a cycle we are still paying into. Number 6. The cucumber and the cool tea for tired eyes. Tired, puffy eyes met the garden and the kitchen, not the pharmacy. 2 cool slices of cucumber over closed eyes, or 2 cooled, used tea bags pressed gently against them, while a woman rested for 10 minutes. Cucumber is cool and full of water, and the chill itself shrinks the look of puffiness by calming the small blood vessels, while its mild astringency tightens the thin skin. Tea brings the same tannins found in witch hazel plus caffeine, both of which reduce swelling and darkness. A woman would cool the cucumber or steep and chill the tea bags, lie back, lay them over closed eyes, and breathe for 10 minutes. Today, depuffing eye masks and caffeine eye serums sell that exact biology in single-use packets at $1 a pair. Number 5. The Milk and Buttermilk Cleanse. This is one of the oldest tricks of all, and it survived into your grandmother's bathroom. Milk, or better still soured buttermilk, was used as a gentle cleanser and softener. Soured milk and buttermilk contain lactic acid, a gentle fruit-type acid that loosens dead surface cells and softens the skin. And because it is mildly acidic, it sat close to the skin's own acid mantle rather than fighting it. It is the same lactic acid that gentle exfoliating products charge a premium for today. Cleopatra is said to have bathed in milk for the very same reason. The method was a little milk or buttermilk on a cotton pad, swept over the face, left a moment, then rinsed cool. Every lactic acid renewing treatment on the shelf today is selling what curdled at the back of your grandmother's icebox. Number 4. The arrival of the pink beauty fluid. Here, the villain finally walks into the story, and it walks in wearing a friendly face. In 1952, a South African chemist named Graham Wolfe created a light pink moisturizing fluid for his wife Dinah, who hated the thick waxy creams of the day. He called it oil of Olay, a name spun from lanolin, and with his partner Jack Lowe, he began to sell it. What makes it matter is not the fluid, which was a pleasant lightweight moisturizer. It is the marketing. The bottle never said what the product actually did. The advertisements used cryptic messages and even fictional letters signed by a made-up woman named Margaret Merrill, and stores stocked it only after curious customers came in asking. It was one of the first times a skincare product was sold as mystery and desire, rather than as a plain answer to a plain need. That shift from here is what this does to here is a feeling you must have is the whole future of the industry in one little pink bottle. The pink fluid taught a generation to buy what they could not quite name, and the modern shelf has been speaking that language ever since. Number 3. The refusal to strip the skin raw. This is less a single trick than the quiet wisdom under all the others. The most skin-wise women of the era simply refused to overdo it. They did not scrub until the skin squeaked. They did not pile on a dozen harsh steps. They cleaned gently, fed the skin, and left it alone. Over-cleansing and harsh scrubbing damaged the skin's barrier and its acid mantle, and skin stripped of its natural oils responds by overproducing oil and growing more sensitive, dry, and irritated over time. The grandmother who used a gentle hand was protecting a system she could not see but understood by feel. Less truly was more, and the proof showed up decades later in her skin. There is no recipe here, only a discipline. Touch the skin kindly. Stop before you have done too much. It is the hardest habit to sell because it asks you to buy almost nothing. Number 2. The shade your grandmother kept and the sun the next generation chased. Here is the most important then and now collision in the countdown, and it cuts the opposite way from what you might expect. The careful women of the early part of the era guarded their skin from the sun. They wore wide hats and gloves kept to the shady side of the street and carried a parasol if they had one. Pale, protected skin was prized, and that instinct, whatever its vanity, shielded them from enormous harm. Then the culture flipped. By the 1950s, the suntan had become the prize, and there was no real protection in the bottle. People slathered on baby oil, some adding a few drops of iodine to deepen the colour and lay out for hours, even propping foil panels to bounce more sun onto their skin. Coppertone, which began in 1944, sold a faster, deeper tan. True sun protection factor labelling did not arrive in the United States until around 1972. Doctors today will tell you plainly that patients who oiled themselves and baked have far more skin cancers, wrinkles and sunspots than those who stayed in the shade. The grandmother under her hat was practicing the single most powerful anti-aging habit ever discovered, and she did it for free. The lesson runs both directions. Honour the old instinct to protect the skin from the sun, but pair it with the one genuinely great modern invention your grandmother never had, a good broad-spectrum sunscreen. The shade was wisdom. The baby oil was the marketing of a tan winning out over scents. Choose the wisdom. And that brings us to number 1, the habit that holds all the others together. Number 1, working with the skin instead of against it. Everything in the countdown has been circling one idea, and now we can say it plainly. Your grandmother's skincare worked because it protected the skin's own defences instead of tearing them down and selling them back to her. That is the whole secret. That is the acid mantle, the phrase we started with, finally stated not as a fact, but as a philosophy. Think back over the 20 habits. The cold cream that cleaned without stripping. The cool rinse that left nothing harsh behind. The faintly acidic splashes of lemon, milk and witch hazel that sat close to the skin's own slightly acidic nature. The petroleum jelly and the night cream that sealed in the moisture already there. The egg and the oats and the honey that fed the skin instead of scouring it. The gentle hand that refused to overdo. Every one of them respected a living, self-protecting surface that knows how to care for itself if you let it. Your grandmother did not have the science. She had something better, the inherited good sense not to wage war on her own face. The modern shelf is built on the opposite belief. It tells you your skin is a problem to be corrected in 12 steps, that clean means stripped, that more bottles mean more beauty, and then it sells you the cure for the damage the first products caused. The slightly acidic, self-defending film your grandmother instinctively guarded is the very thing the harshest modern routines destroy. So the most forgotten habit of all is not an ingredient. It is an attitude. Treat your skin as something already wise, already working, in need of gentle help rather than constant correction. Clean it kindly, feed it simply, seal in what it already has. Stay out of the harsh sun. That is the entire inheritance, and it cost almost nothing. So here is the challenge. Pick one and try it this week. Trade your foaming cleanser for a cold cream tissue off and finish with a splash of cold water. Or mix a spoonful of oats and a spoonful of honey into a mask on a tired evening. Or sweep a little witch hazel over your skin the way half the country once did. Just one for 7 days, and pay attention to how your skin feels. I will tell you what happened when I did it. For 2 weeks I put away my foaming face wash and went back to cleansing with cold cream and finishing with that shock of cold water. Nothing more. What I noticed by the end was small but unmistakable. That tight, drawn, stripped feeling I had always assumed was just what a clean face felt like simply stopped. My skin felt calm instead of scrubbed, and I have not gone back. It turns out the feeling I had been chasing my whole life was the feeling of damage. Now I want to hear from you, and I want you to settle an argument in the comments. Which one wins for your skin? The witch hazel splash that the oily-skinned women swore by, or the beaten egg white mask that pulled the whole face tight before a big night out? Pick a side and tell me why. I genuinely want to know which one your own grandmother would have reached for, because somewhere in that drawer of simple things she knew exactly what she was doing.